This journey will guide inside the ride where we fly. Virtual roads touch the sky. Join us here, don't be shy. Inside the ride, yeah, we hide.
Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Inside the Ride by MyWhoosh. I am your host, Cy Bradley. Let's immediately bring in co-host Matt Smithson. Matt, how are you this wonderful day?
I'm wonderful, mate, on this wonderful day. All ready to go with another podcast. We've got a good interview coming up, so it'll be good to... obviously, you did that, not me, so I can't wait to hear that and then have a bit of a chat afterwards. But lots of stuff happening here that we can cover off on today's episode.
Yeah, a lot to go through today, actually. We're going to talk about the Sunday Race Club. I raced it this week, Matt, this last Sunday just gone, and I managed to get a top 10 finally for some time. Got a 9th. Yeah, I thought I was going to finish with that front group because I was hanging on quite well, and that climb that I insisted the other week that needs to be categorised on Tel Marib became the undoing of me, I have to say. So we battle on, but it was a great week's racing. Again, watching the men's race and the men's results. Again, this racing is getting hot. We're a couple of weeks out from the Worlds, Matt. And I have to say, the ladies racing, we're going to talk to the winner a little bit later on with that interview I did, which was Kate McCarthy. I'm not sure if you've seen the results, but Kate won by almost 90 seconds. Unbelievable.
Yep. I saw it, and I actually went through some of the verification this week and looked at all the numbers, and I could see that there's some people out there that are, let's call all but favourites in the World Championships, or certainly on for top 5, that did their best numbers ever on our platform, which is what you want to see running into the World Championships, and they were still 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th down that area. So it's really interesting to see what's happening, to see the fitness levels really changing, and I think what's really good to see, I think, out of those numbers from the top end riders is they're usually very, very consistent. So because it's a week in, week out affair, you see, 0.1 of a watt per kilo changes here and there, where what we've seen is we actually saw a decline after the semi-finals. So having a look at some of the people's numbers, you could see their heart rates and their sort of numbers had declined just a little bit. So I thought a little bit of a break, a little bit of a holiday, a little bit of a refresh, or deep into a build, one of the other. And you can see they're now starting to come out the other side, and the numbers are coming back up above where they were, which is exactly what you want for those top people. Certainly the ladies seem to be timing this maybe a little bit better than the men from what I'm seeing on the numbers, which is really good to see. And as we know, that racing's always exciting. I think in the lower categories, we did a bit of a reshuffle for October. They came in, that sort of made a few changes to the dynamics. I think we put quite a few up into 3. So 4 is probably back to where it needs to be now, which is probably why you got a top 10. So I saw you went down to 4. I haven't been out there. I've been travelling and working and a little bit sick at the moment. So it's a positive vibe, I think, coming out of SRC.
Yeah, I think I've been struck by the sort of Smithson Effect, I'm going to call this, that as soon as you start working professionally in cycling esports, your own personal fitness and riding reduces. Having said that, it's coming back slowly. We're doing, yesterday I did a live. In fact, yesterday, Matt, we had the highest number of people in a single live session. So the live sessions are really growing now, which is great to see. But of course, you also had us testing the UCI, because we've got this new release coming in 3.8.5, I think it is. So I had a double training session yesterday, rode with you on the UCI routes, and then did the live session. So hopefully I can get that top 5 at some point.
Yeah, you might, but you've got to watch out for the team. So our team obviously listens to the podcast, because I said last week that I've had the biggest gain in SRC history, I think, since the last weigh-in, and I weighed in just to stay all above board. I didn't actually tell anyone because I wasn't racing, and when I logged into the game yesterday, they've put me in at 81 kilos. So they listen to the podcast, and without even watching my video or anything like that, they've already put my weight up. So they're on the ball, which is good to see. But 3.8.5 will hopefully be out when this is released, and all looking good there. It's got a few sort of bug fixes. I know a lot of people... Well, not a lot of people, but some people are complaining they lose some achievements every now and then. So that's a bug that's been fixed. It's identified. it's fixed. We've got some fixes to the land connections and things like that for the World Championships. We've got, some updates to a little bit of artwork, some things like that. It's not a huge release. It's more just aligning some things that we knew last minute that we needed for the World Championships in a few weeks. We had to add in a couple of jerseys for nations that we didn't get in for the semi-finals. So there's not huge stuff for the community out there, but there's steps forward. There's little fixes along the way, as there always is. And then we'll push forward to a really big 4.0 release later on in the year, and that'll have more features and functionalities for the main community.
Yeah, that's going to be a big one, of course. I guess the other thing, just before we start talking about Worlds as well, is the season pass. The season pass, I think, ends in a couple of days' time, the 14th of October, if I remember rightly. So if you've not got that Project AU bike yet, this is the time to really push on in the next couple of days and get that. I picked it up finally, so I'm fully kitted out with those season pass specials. Matt, what about you?
I don't have it. No, I haven't got there. And I'll blame it on all my riding's done in test environments, which is not really true. All my riding is not done ever anymore. I sit there and play with things to make my little man drive around for me. But I did ride yesterday, but again, I did it twice actually yesterday as well, would you believe? But they were all in test environments, so I'm not getting near the AU bike. But I do know what's coming on the next season pass. So that's going to be a bit of fun. It's a little bit more, let's say, historic that we've touched on before. So yeah, there's some new challenges. I know you're working with the team on that as well. So that'll be in the 4.0 release. So there'll be no season pass straight after the end of the first one. We'll sort of only do 3 or 4 of these a year.
Yeah,
but
that makes sense.
The good news is that we will release the MyWhoosh World to everybody after the season ends. So everybody that hasn't had the season pass will finally get an opportunity to be using the MyWhoosh World, which is, as we know, great fun to ride and great graphics and all those sort of things. And we had some discussions about Worlds, and I know people like hearing about this. And the art team said to me during the week, which one can we get rid of? We've got too many more coming. So that was an interesting conversation, and I said none. Wow. But yeah, we'll see if anyone's got ideas on the ones they don't like, let us know. But at this stage, we're pushing ahead with all the ones that we have and more, with Japan coming soon.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, though. I think we need to explore that at some point of how we figure out those rotations at some point as well, because we do have a lot of worlds rotating at the same time sometimes, and I know it can spread the community a little bit on some occasions. So, I guess there's an interesting one to discuss. Just on that season pass as well, I guess, put it out there to the community, not just season 2, but moving forward. What sort of challenges would the community want to see as well? So again, feed that back to us on the socials. It's always a good idea. Matt, I want to talk about the Worlds, because obviously I'm a couple of days away, 5 days away from actually coming over there with you guys and going through the setup. I've seen some renders of the venue, the Adnek Arena there. It looks absolutely phenomenal. I'm excited. I'm actually just excited about riding in Abu Dhabi as well and getting down to Herdariat to ride. But I can see that a couple of people on social media have announced their attendance for wildcards on the men's side in particular. I think we've got Dan Turik and Teppo L'Oreal, who's well known in the cycling esports community.
Yeah, they went through the process through the UCI, and that's who the UCI selected. We know Dan really well. Dan races SRC every week, but he had some continental or his team commitments, and he couldn't ride the qualifiers and the semis. So yeah, it'd be good to have them joining. On the ladies' side, there's been wildcards sent out, and we're awaiting the acceptance of those. So I don't have any more news on those. Hopefully I'll have some in the coming days there. But mate, it's all happening here for the World Championships. There's just so much going on. I'm not sure how much the community wants to know or don't want to know, but I'm happy to fill in on a few details for a couple of minutes before we join the interview if we want to head that direction. But we've been testing every night. The local Abu Dhabi cycling community has been fantastic. So we get a load of people turn up in here sort of 6:30, 7 o'clock every night. And we've been doing everything you can think of, from just running it through from start to finish and checking the points work and all the checkpoints are correct and the timing between stages. Then we've tried to break every single thing we can think of. What happens if someone gets kicked out? What if we lose power? What if we lose internet? All of those sort of things. What if trainers stop working? Every single scenario we can think of, we've attempted to test. So we're getting there. We had some heart rate monitor issues where they kept going to sleep if someone went to the bathroom. Like that's the level of detail we've gone to. Our great friends at Machine took on the challenge to fix the problem we had and sent us some new heart rate monitors for everybody that would not go into sleep mode. So we're getting lots of support out there. The trainers are here. from elite. I'm going through a process that will be videoed tomorrow and made available to sort of the UCI to check what we're doing, just to power them up and check that they're 100% ready to go for the championships, which is only, a couple of weeks away, as we said. We're going to continue testing. All of the changes and everything goes from testing into the live environment today. So it's exciting times. I can't comment too much on the bright lights and the broadcast and all of those things, because that's a little bit beyond my scope and capabilities and things that I'm not my strong point. But I've seen what the pods look like, the lights look like, and then the questions from the athletes. They're also helping us out as well. People are saying, what front wheel chock are we going to be using? What time do we get there? Have we got a rehearsal? What's our warm-up? All of these little things go into this huge event, which you're going to be very much trying to deal with next week. We've got 10 mechanics on stage to change cassettes over and bikes over. It's a big, big event, and we just can't wait to get it kicked off and show the world what MyWhoosh can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great. It's interesting when I wake up in the morning and we see that social media has kicked off. Like the minute the elite riders, those finalists, got those elite Justos, Instagram post was just tagging MyWhoosh, tagging us in and say, "Hey, Justo's arrived and we're getting tuned." But I get that from an elite athlete point of view, and you'll get that from the interview that we're going to play out in a second there. That these athletes, we're 2.5 weeks away, are really looking at every detail. So I understand the questions. They are like, I'm not saying you and I are not finely tuned athletes or engines, Matt, but these guys, they're planning to peak at the right time. And, I know that some athletes historically at other championships and, events have had some issues, and they're just, they're trying to work with us to make sure we eliminate any risk of that. It's not just being physically right. I guess it's just, we're there to make sure all the hardware and the software and, is right at the same time.
They are. And this is in its infancy, this sport as a whole. Yeah. And in the past, people have used smart bikes when they've done some live events. We're using trainers. So that's a different set of challenges straight away. Having 20 people on the stage at one time without having Bluetooth interruptions and interference. And these things there's been failures in the past, and hopefully we don't have any. But that's not to blame of people that have tried to do this in the past. Now that I've gone through this process, I really, really understand the difficulty involved in ticking every box. And hopefully we've ticked the boxes, and we know we've done enough testing and things like that to really get this rocking and rolling, I suppose, from here. But I'm sure in the next 10 or 15 days we'll find something that we missed and address that. It's a challenge, and, this year will be great, next year will be better. But, we'll put on a good show. I'm pretty confident at this point.
Yeah, I think it's a good exercise to go through this as well, because I think it's fair to say we can't share too much now, but I think the plan is that there's going to be more and more live cycling esports events in the future. Whether that be different national championships or different kind of championships in the future. But it's really interesting process, and having the whole team involved in this, looking at the details to make sure we get it absolutely as close to perfect as we can. But I think it's one of those, Matt, where we can say sort of watch this space, because some stuff is coming.
Yep, definitely there. I think there's 3 national federations that have approached me in the last week wanting to do live challenges or championships for the 25 season, I suppose, is the best way to put it. So that's good. People want to do it live. People want to televise it. There's lots of cool stuff happening in this space. So we'll get this big show out of the way, and then we'll start chipping away at some of these other events and really sort of growing this, not just the platform, but the sport as a whole.
Well, we've mentioned the World Finals. We've mentioned the athlete that we're going to interview now. I'm going to share the interview with you. We're at opposite ends of the planet here. So there was exactly 12 hours difference. I've recorded this at 9 p.m. UK time. It was 9 a.m. there for Kate McCarthy. Matt, take a listen and we'll have a chat after this. All right, I'm really pleased to be talking to Kate McCarthy, or should I say Mary Kate McCarthy, because we'll talk about this in a second, Kate, because obviously whenever I see your name, I don't know if you've listened to any of the previous podcasts, but I always use your full name because, of course, that's part of the etiquette with the Sunday Race Club, Mary Kate McCarthy. But I think you go by Kate McCarthy. Kate McCarthy is a rising star in this world of cycling esports. Hailing from New Zealand, of course, you have earned your place, Kate, of course, in the 2024 UCI Cycling Esports World Championships in Abu Dhabi, which is taking place on the 26th of October. I know you've got a background in real life cycling and other sports as well, Kate, but why don't you just give us a bit of background on sort of how you got into cycling and sports and then your eventual journey into cycling esports and MyWhoosh?
Yep. Hi, thanks for having me. I started cycling back in end of 2018, beginning of 2019, on the road after meeting my partner, and he got me into the sport. And I've been doing road cycling ever since. Had a couple of cracks at our national champs, but have had multiple second and third placings and not quite grasped the jersey. And then earlier this year, I had a horrific nationals where I came down with a bit of gastro, and it was sort of what I targeted to be one of my last opportunities at the national champs, with having to get back into full-time work and things like that. And then, I was looking at giving up the sport, and then I saw the announcement for the eSport Worlds in, what was that, earlier in the year anyway, put my idea forward to my partner Dylan and said, hey, look, this is something I think I could do, and it's achievable with back at work and training in the garage and things like that. So yeah, now here we are in racing esports, which is something I didn't see myself doing, but yeah, it's been awesome.
Well, there's quite a few things I've got to pull out there. First of all, we've got to talk about your boyfriend, right? Your partner, Dylan, because he's no stranger to success himself, right? And he's got a background. If I remember rightly, he's he's representing New Zealand, I think, at Worlds in the team pursuit, right? Yep.
So he won the world champs in 2015, I think it was, on the track in team pursuit, and he's had a fourth placing, I think, at the Olympics, and done multiple racing overseas, like quite a bit of racing overseas and that sort of thing. So he's got the background and the knowledge to help me for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to talk about that because I know Dylan does a lot of coaching with you as well, and I've read some quotes of some of the motivational techniques and some of the training sessions. So I'm going to ask you about that in a bit more detail. You mentioned work there as well, of course, and I just wonder how because you're a police officer, right?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Yeah. So how does that, how do you balance? Is it easier to balance, and how do you balance that training, work-life balance as well? Has cycling esports helped with that in any way?
Yep, I've been very fortunate in that I am doing a bit of office work at the moment, and dealing with people over the phone rather than out and about at the moment, just because the esports has become such a focus for me, and it allows me to not have to do night shifts and real late early mornings and things like that. So I've been very fortunate that that's allowed me to balance that training, but it's also made training possible with the esports, and that I can get an hour in, and that hour is a solid hour, and I don't need to do 3, 4, 5 on the road like I would outside.
Yeah. So obviously there's a time difference as well, right? You haven't got to do the same amount of hours. But what about the types of sessions that you're doing? In particular, as we talk about the run up to the Cycling Esports Worlds in Abu Dhabi later this month, has the style of training changed as well now? Because of course, if we look at the format of the finals, it's not a 2, 3, 4 hour road race. It's quite a different format, even that we used to in cycling esports. So how have you and Dylan adapted what you're doing training wise in preparation for both the semi-finals, which you were pretty dominant, I would say, in some stages there, and as we lead up to the finals?
It's just been a lot of short, sharp efforts, a lot of anaerobic work, and also a decent amount of gym work. Just trying to keep that high power up, because I think for me the short, sharp efforts have always been something I've struggled a bit more with. Probably why I was more drawn to the road than following Dylan on the track, because it's a lot more drawn out, and I do like the longer efforts. It's been a bit of a change to do the short, sharp anaerobic stuff, but seems to be working well so far.
So in terms of you as a rider then, just look back on some of your results. I mean, I know you've picked up some Strava segments off some pretty notable riders over there in New Zealand as well recently. I think, is it Neve Fisher Black who rides for SD Works, right? I know you picked up a recent hill climb Strava segment off Neve.
Yeah. She's one of our top Kiwi riders, so it was cool to go out. It was something I targeted for a while, knowing that she can climb so well. But luckily for me, we don't have hugely long hills here, so it's about a 10-minute segment. And yeah, I hope with the form and now to go back and really put some time into her and see how it goes. Yeah.
So in terms then of you as a rider, then obviously you picked up some hill climbs, but I think you're a really punchy rider, I guess. And I'm thinking about this week's Sunday Race Club as well. This week was on Heritage Climb, right? And it's pretty rare that we see the kind of gaps between the top three that we saw this weekend. I think eventually you won there by 1 minute and 30 seconds over Gabriel Aguirre there. So how would you describe yourself as a rider? Are you a puncher, climber, rouleur? How would you describe?
I always thought I was quite punchy, but the more I've sort of got into the sport, the more I realised I think I like my one pace. So I was quite happy to. I went into that race thinking I don't want it to come down to a sprint because that's not my strong point. So I decided to head out early and then just hang on. And I think that kind of works for me because when I can just sit at my pace and my tempo, I know what I can hold and keep going.
So how much planning went into the this week's Sunday Race Club on that Heritage Climb? How much planning went into that? And did you stick to plan? What was the strategy?
Yeah, no. So we wanted to have a bit of a play around and a test to see where my form was at the beginning of the week. And I saw the course and had a chat to Dylan and said, what do you think? And he always says to me, like, because he's got a great sprint on him, and he said, well, let's think, well, if me as a sprinter, what do I not want you to do? Because he wants it to come to a sprint at the finish.
Yeah.
So he said, yeah, like I would not want you to attack here and, that sort of thing. So that's where we looked at it and thought, right, well, it's a long climb. It's a long way out from the finish. Maybe there might be some hesitation there to follow. And so, yeah, gave it a crack and it worked. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, we've seen your results progressing week on week. I think you've only been doing SRC probably since the start of summer, I think, in the Northern Hemisphere, which I know is different for you guys. But I think May, June, July, I think was the time when you started in SRC, and we've just seen your results improve. And I think there was probably a lot of, I won't say shocked, but you did really well in those semi-finals, and you've really put yourself up there as a contender, I guess. So, again, just looking forward ahead, you seem to be just peaking at the right time as we're only 2 or 3 weeks away from the finals.
Yeah, it's all sort of come together quite nicely. I knew I wanted to target the semi-finals was the big target because, in all honesty, I had no idea how it was going to go and if I was even going to make. I'd been talking to. He probably wants me to stop talking about it, but I keep saying to him I want to be in that top 20, and I would have been stoked with 20th, so where I finished, and it was a bit shocking to me as well, but I was super happy with it.
Yeah. So tell me about I'm interested in this dynamic, right, between yourself and Dylan, and how you balance this sort of coach and personal life, because I can tell you now, if I tried to coach my wife and give her any sort of advice, I'm pretty sure she wouldn't listen. So tell me about that dynamic. How does that work?
Well, we've definitely had our moments, but
in the heat of battle, I imagine.
Yes. But now that he's not riding competitively, we've kind of found quite a good balance in that he just says, right, because we used to go out and ride together and we'd train together, and he'd see me doing the whole thing. And there would be a few wee barneys sometimes, but now he's able to just tell me, right, I want you to go out and do this, and then I go out and I do it, and then I come back and we look over it, and there's a bit more separation than there once was. But in terms of the Sunday racing, he's standing right beside me and telling me, put the power on here, ease off here, and just giving me all the tips and things I need. And I think his gaming brain, as well as his ability to read a race and his experience in racing, has really combined well. He's able to look at the screen and go, right, they're cracking, I want you to dig now, go now. you've got the gap kind of thing, and it takes the thought process out of it for me, which has been huge, which I know I won't have over in Abu Dhabi, so I've got to learn as much as I can from him while I'm here and doing it with him. But yeah, also his confidence in me has been huge, because I've always had a little bit of, I guess, self-doubt, and I've had races here, and I guess maybe that's why I've had seconds and thirds at our national champs, is that little bit of self-doubt that always sits there. But the last few weeks, and I think that very first Sunday Race Club I won was like the week before our esports, the semi-finals, and that was just perfect timing for me. That was all the confidence I think I needed going into that race the following week, because it kind of removed that doubt of, am I good enough to be here and doing this? So yeah, I think it's all worked out.
And your
really
results
well.
are standing out, that you clearly are. And like I say, you were right up there in those semi-finals as well. I just want to pick up on something. I heard a quote that your boyfriend had said to you, that you got to channel your inner Tade, right, for this week's course. Is that right?
Yes, because we watched obviously we got up, it was very early in the morning, we watched the World Champs, and obviously he attacked from like, 100k to go. And obviously SRC's far shorter, but when he said we are going to go for a long range move, that's what he was standing beside me yelling at me. But it's been, it was awesome, because I have my parents actually do pop round every now and again and stand beside me as well doing Sunday race. So at like 9 o'clock at night, I'm sure the neighbours are wondering what's going on. They can hear all this yelling coming from the garage, but yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's really interesting, because obviously you mentioned there that you're not going to be able to have Dylan and the family stood next to you, on stage there in Abu Dhabi. But it's going to be an amazing atmosphere. I think there's going to be hundreds of people in that hall. It's going to be quite a different experience, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Is it one that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think it'll be cool just to be beside the girls. You'll be able to see who's feeling good, who's not looking good, and try and keep yourself composed and things like that. And I think there's going to be a lot more mind games than what there is obviously racing virtually away from each other. But I think it's going to be quite tactical in terms of the way people compose themselves on the bikes too.
Well, let's talk about that then, because of course it's one thing getting physically in the right place to perform on that day. But as you mentioned there as well, cycling esports, it's quite tactical, and there's going to be a lot of decision making, especially when there's only 20 people, in that race for those finals. Are you guys spending a lot of time planning and assessing, looking at data of the other riders as well, or what's happening there in the background? You don't need to give us too many details, but I guess you're spending a lot of time planning.
Yes, definitely. To be fair, the very first SRC race I did a while back, I think Catherine and Kristen Kulczynski just took off, and I remember coming back up from that race and saying to Dylan, these girls are going to be the girls I'm going to race when it comes to these semi-finals. And I said we need to look at what they're doing, had a look back at some of the old racing footage from before that, and just to see where people's strong points were and things like that. And they were basically, for me, they were carrots to chase. So I did have a look at who they were and what they were up to, and I guess, a bit of virtual stalking, you'd say, but it's all out there. They're all open about it, which is really cool. And I try to keep all of my stuff as open as possible as well. But definitely had a look at who's who and what they're up to, and Yeah.
All right. So looking forward then, what are your sort of longer term goals and aspirations when it comes to cycling, either traditionally or with cycling esports?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really enjoying where I'm at with the Sunday race clubs and doing racing weekly and things like that. Because we here don't have a lot of racing, especially over winter. There's not a lot going on. And our summer stuff, it's always racing the men, so it's quite nice to do racing against the women, and it all be all girls as well. But I really don't know where I'm heading next with it. I think the Worlds will be the goal right now, and then just get back and have a bit of a break and reassess and see where I want to go next. Yeah.
of course, Kate, I know you're a young athlete, but you've been around cycling esports for a little while. You know, cycling esports is still in its infancy as well, but you've been around the sport for a little while now. And I wonder, what advice would you give to other athletes or other, you know, just women who want to get into the sport and into cycling esports? You know, what advice would you give them?
I just give it a go. Like, don't hesitate about it. Give it a go. You just gotta throw yourself into it, and you can only improve. It can only get. It doesn't get easier, but it does. You do get better, and it does come. Fitness comes, and everything comes, and you learn how to do it all. And I guess, yeah, just give it a go. That's all I can say. It's a lot of fun, and it's short, and you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours training. You can get away with a bit less, and yeah.
Awesome. No, I think that's great. I need to ask you some quick fire questions now. Just a little bit of fun, just so we get a bit of insight. In fact, me and Matt went through some of these questions last week in last week's podcast. Your favourite Sunday race club route, what would that be and why?
Well, I guess now it's got to be the heritage one, doesn't it?
Yeah, the heritage climb after that dominant performance, I guess.
Yeah. And then probably, no, that would probably be my favourite, yeah. So far, it was my first time racing that one. Actually, I am pretty lucky in that I am able to message Ollie Jones, who does very well on the platform, and I flicked him a message and said, "Hey, I haven't ridden this one. Do you have any race notes?" And he just sent me a little page of race notes of the points of the course and things like that. So he's been a huge help too.
I wonder what it is about New Zealand because, you know, relatively, in terms of population, relatively small country, right? But of course, you've got Ollie Jones down there. You've got Michael Vink, who was also pretty dominant historically on MyWhoosh as well. And I know he's a South African, but of course, you've got James Barnes, who's in, I think he's actually recently moved to the south of New Zealand there as well. But I just wonder what it is in the water in New Zealand, or whether it's the weather or what's happening down there that you're producing so many high quality cycling esports athletes.
Yeah, no, I think we the winters are pretty rough, but we've also got very rough roads, so it's I think it builds for tough riding and a bit of grit that you need for the esports racing, because you don't get that respite. So yeah, I think that's probably part of it.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. All right, next question then. Favorite training session? Or favourite type of training session? Do you prefer the longer efforts, the shorter efforts, the sprints, the VO2? I mean, surely no one likes lactate tolerance work, but...
You know, there is one session I do love. I love it and I hate it, but it's a session we do where you push for 5 seconds, like sprinting out of the saddle, sit down for 15 seconds at your like 5 minute sort of max effort. And you get 40 seconds at your threshold, and then you're straight back into your 5 seconds. And you repeat until, well, I do it based on a hill we have here, a local climb here, and you just do it until you get to the top, and then you go back down and you repeat that. And I find that's perfect for racing and really pushes me to my limits. That's probably my favourite session I do coming into racing.
All right. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I know that, you've probably seen the live coaching that we've started to roll out here on MyWhoosh as well. And we've got some of the elite finalists doing some of these live coaching sessions. So I'm hoping, Kate, that I can coach you into delivering one of these live sessions and maybe take the cycling esports community here on MyWhoosh through one of those sessions, if you'd be up for that.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I don't know how I'd go doing that, but I could give it a go.
Either that or we get Coach Dylan on the bike and he can coach us all through it at the same time, given his background too. In fact, we could get you both on, the coaching couple, on those live workouts. Last one of these questions is the favourite post-race snack.
To be fair, I don't really know what it is, but the last few weeks, my mum has brought round a box of little ice creams. So I've kept those in the freezer for after the Sunday race each week. So it's something to look forward to.
But it's pretty late at night for you, I think, the finals or the Sunday Race Club anyway, right? So you don't want to be eating too much sugary stuff as you get too close to bedtime, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, this is the big question, Kate. What would it mean for you to potentially put on those rainbow stripes if it were to happen on the 26th? I know we say don't dare to dream, but what would it mean to you if you were to put on those stripes, those rainbow stripes on the 26th of October in Abu Dhabi?
Oh, it'd be huge. I kind of haven't let myself think about that too much, because just getting there has been massive in itself, and getting to wear our national kit, because that's something the day I jumped on the bike, I've always wanted to wear our national kit. So then to put on a rainbow jersey would just be, crazy.
Okay, I could totally appreciate that. Wearing the national colours is pride enough, right? And Luke, it's been great fun watching you develop over the last couple of months on the Sunday Race Club to the point where, like I say, that victory on Sunday was absolutely amazing. If anyone wants to go back and watch that race, go and check that out. Qualifier 1, Sunday Race Club, last Sunday. Go and check that out on YouTube. Kate, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. Look forward to seeing you in Abu Dhabi in just a few weeks' time. Thanks again, and we'll speak to you soon.
So, no, thank you.
Matt, I don't know what you feel about that, but I just talking to Kate and then after, and just listening back to it then, it's like building the excitement in me. So I don't know how these athletes are going to feel, but I want to see these battles that are going to take place on that stage.
Yeah, I really loved parts of that interview. What I really liked is you could see that Kate had come to the crossroads with her cycling career and wants to keep riding, but wasn't really sure where to go. And what we've been able to put together has allowed her to do that. And then all of a sudden, she's now competing for a world title where probably 12 months ago, she just wasn't in that space at all. It was, am I working full time? Have I stopped racing? Where does this sit for me? So that just makes me feel really, really good, because, there's plenty of people come to those crossroads in this sport. And so if esports can bring them, it's an hour and a half race, the training's not as much, even though the training's harder. Great. It was really interesting to hear her talk about how she's felt that she was a little bit one-paced. She's obviously done a work around that now, and I can see, I won't ever disclose numbers that we see, but I can tell you right now, she's not one-paced anymore. So she's had some big wins there. What'll be interesting, talking about tactics and how she attacks the event, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here for Kate, but it'll be, can she nullify the losses in stage 1 if she doesn't sprint that well? Because if it's half a second between, first and 14th place, that puts these people on the back foot right from the start. I would think she's going to be very, very competitive in stage 2. If not, top 1 or 2 in that stage, based on what I'm seeing with her numbers and things like that. And then coming into the 3rd stage, it's going to be really dependent on how it's raced. I think if they draw it out and make it hard the whole time, then Kate's going to be a really big chance at winning this. But if they do what the men did in the semi-final and they all cruise around and sprint up the 50, 55 second hill every lap, she probably is going to get hurt.
To work over the table, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so you start looking at this and you look at it from all these different angles. And again, I know what her partner goes through. He's waiting for everybody else to wait for him to get to the sprint. Like, I don't mean they're waiting for him. He's obviously an exceptional bike rider. But, you're trying to plan, how do I get to the end with everybody, and then I'm going to show them what I can do. Where Kate's got the opposite to that. But the interesting part in this event is we're going to have the sprint at the start, not at the end. So it's cool. It's great. She's really passionate. Obviously, can't wait to come and check out Abu Dhabi and race and meet everybody, as you and I do as well. Like, I was just thinking then, I'm going to sit there and get to meet all of these names that I see every week. I've spoken to a few of them over the years, or we've tested a couple of them in here, but we're going to have 40, 45 athletes here, all the people surrounding that. It's going to just be a great opportunity to be part of something. I think you and I will walk away from this going, thank God that's over, but also very, very thankful that our involvement in the sport has brought these people together, brings us together with these people, these athletes, and they're people. They're athletes, but they're here, they're under stress. It's going to be a really good
you're
week.
right. And just picking up what you said there, I think just this format and the planning. I don't want to keep picking on the format because I know you came up with it, but just the planning. Speaking to a number of athletes, I listened to the Lou Bates interview that was on the Virtual Velvet podcast recently as well, for example. The amount of planning that's going in and the amount of strategy. And like you said there, having to look at other riders, because I'm looking down this list here and I can see a few riders who are going to want to try and make this difficult on stage 3 throughout. And there's going to be those athletes. But of course, you don't know what's going to happen on the day. And this is what really separates it, I think, from the cross, from road racing, even from track racing. Dylan Kennett there, absolute legend of the sport there in New Zealand as a track rider, a pursuit rider and so on. Track is a pretty strategic thing, but even so, 3 stages, all testing different parts of physiologically. There's only so much planning you can do. There's going to be, and you're not going to be able to have your coach stood next to you, react on the fly. It's going to be an amazing spectacle. So, wherever you can get to watch that, whether you're lucky enough like us to be there live and watch this roll out and fold out in front of us, or watch it digitally, it's going to be an amazing race to watch.
Yeah. And it's also going to be not even just getting the plan to work, it's adjusting to the plan and making decisions as you go. As they say with boxing, everyone's got a plan to win a boxing match until you get punched in the face, right? And then it's it's very different. You've got to make those decisions and go with what happens. And I think we're going to see the person that thinks on their feet the most is probably going to win this because they're all fit, they're all elite athletes. They're all doing similar numbers. It's about who's going to adapt to that race.
I'd say the other thing I got from that interview, Matt, as well, is that I clearly need to drop Ollie Jones a message for this little black book of race notes, because both Ollie and Kate are getting some good. It probably won't help me because I just don't have the physiological attributes. But if he just gets me to 8th or 7th, I'd be happy. But there's clearly some sharing going on there.
Yeah, Ollie does like a long and detailed email as well.
Post-race?
So, you'll get plenty of detail. Yeah, post-race, yeah. I haven't had one for a little while, but he used to send sort of things, what he saw happened out there and things like that when we were early on improving the platform, which was really good. He's a super clever guy as well, so he picks up some things and he goes, I just hope you're aware the game does this. And once or twice I've gone, I missed that, probably because I don't ride at the speed that Ollie did. And he was always very critical about, well, not critical, but helpful about the dynamics. In the game, and he came because I think he has a background in that, and he came out and said, "Gee, what you guys have done is really clever. It's really good." So that was nice to hear from Ollie, and obviously he's going to be one of the favourites coming over. And him and Kate have got a long way to come. I know how far it is from Australia, but from New Zealand, it's even further. And I can tell you why they're such good bike riders in New Zealand, because if you've ever had to go and race or train there, you have to ride on an angle into the wind on the world's deadest roads of all time. And I was thinking about it when Kate was saying that. In esports, I find on any platform, not just ours, you never get that feeling of a tailwind and the sun on your back, if that makes sense, and that you're riding really quickly. You're always battling somehow, somewhere. That's riding in New Zealand, so that's maybe why they're so good at it.
It's funny you mentioned that, because when I do the live sessions, I always say you've got to visualise the sun on your back with the wind behind you, climbing this gradual climb, and it just feels easy. But clearly, no one can make that link and relation in New Zealand for sure. Well, it's going to be exciting. I've had members of the community also mention that they're going to be doing watch parties for this online if they can't get to the venue as well. So keep your eye up on the.
Wow.
It's amazing the sort of the impact it's having in the community as well. Then, like I say, 2.5 weeks away, it's going to be amazing. So we're going to be doing this podcast, I think, next week from the studio. So I'll be sat with you somewhere there, I think, in the studio as we do this podcast. So that'll be that'll be a new and exciting experience for sure. Just coming back onto the lives, just want to remind the community that this coming week, Wednesday the 16th, Lionel Vujasin, the GOAT himself, the GOAT as I call him, of Cycling Esports is doing a live sessions. Lionel is actually going to take us through a shortened version of one of his training sessions that he does in the lead up to big championship races. So it's going to be, I think, 7 p.m. Central European time, Wednesday evening next week. So look out for that on the socials and come and join us for that live workout. I'm going to be there, Matt. I think it's a little bit late in the evening for you. No doubt you'll be doing some more testing over there anyway, but we'll get it recorded. We'll give you some feedback, but it promises to be a quality workout.
If I get on, I'll get on. And I'm sure, is it Kevin from Scotland? I'm sure he'll be out there. I don't think he's missed a live yet. So shout out to Kevin from Scotland who did, I think he did 2 or 3 yesterday, didn't he?
He's turned up to, I think, almost every live I've done. And then yesterday he said to me in the chat, because we chat as well, it's great. We've got the text chat. I can respond verbally. And he said, yeah, Bart says hello. And I said, what, have you already trained today? He's like, yeah, I've done both lives today. So there are people. He's going to be a fit guy. He can start doing the live coaching soon, I think. But look, that's it for episode 7 of Inside the Ride. Unless, Mike, you've got anything you want to close the show with?
No, just excitement. I think I'll get back out of here and keep following up on things that we've got happening. And just can't wait to deliver this now. We're a few weeks away, and I'll see you on Tuesday.
On Tuesday in that studio. Don't forget, follow, subscribe, share this podcast with your cycling esports friends, and we'll see you soon for another Inside the Ride by MyWhoosh.
On this journey we'll guide inside the ride.